Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on whatever time you're watching this or joining us. Karibu sana to KNA Political Table, where we talk matters politics and matters governance. My name is Tamara Patience, and I am joined by Emmanuel Bosiri, of course, who will help us digest what is happening in the political scene in Kenya as well as worldwide. And of course, we know when it's time for politics, when it's time for governance, we ask ourselves the question who did what, where, why, did I say when? Yes, and how much money was spent? Because kama kawaida, when we talk about governance, we have to ask ourselves how much money has been spent, how much money has been borrowed, how much money is the taxpayer going to pay more? And of course, this comes at a time where we are seeing a lot happening in Kenya, including the recent increase in the price of fuel as well as food commodities. We have also seen a lot of people losing their jobs, including the Communications Authority head, that is Ezra Chiloba, who's recently been suspended from the organization. This also comes at a time where we are talking about bipartisan talks in Kenya. We are talking about leaders being arrested or others being abducted, as they said. We are seated here as we also talk about the amount of taxation that Kenyans are going through right now. Every single day we wake up to new taxations, to new taxation policies, and all that. So we just want to see what is happening in our country, Kenya. And of course, starting us off, we have a lawyer, that is Paul Mwangi, the Azimio lawyer, who has, in one way or another, revealed that there is a plot to actually suspend the constitution. Now, in a brief today, he touched on three major things. Number one, they stated that as the nationwide protest called by Azimio were ongoing, and even in the aftermath, Kenya Kwanza embarked on a series of systematic and targeted political arrests of several Azimio leaders and their supporters, most of whom were retained, held incommunicado, sometimes secretly, and then released without charge. And second on the list, he stated that on the 19th of July 2023, Maurice Ogeta, that is the bodyguard to the Azimio leader Raila Odinga, was abducted and detained at an unknown location without food. Further to this, they say at the same time, Azimio affiliate blogger, that is Pauline Njoroge, was arrested while on a holiday in the coastal town of Watamu, framed for being in possession of narcotics and also charged. Now, this statement comes, number one, immediately after the release of the ex-Mungiki leader, that is Mine and Jenga, due to alleged abduction. And also we've seen some leaders coming out saying that they have been abducted and relating it to the Kenya Kwanza government. So right away, we're going to hear what Paul Mwangi had to say, and then we'll be right back to discuss it one by one.
Thank you very much. My area is about legal and constitutional. And first and foremost, our marking scheme on legal and constitutional issues is Article 10 of the Constitution, which provides for national values and principles of governance. And our take is that on all aspects of Article 10 of the Constitution, the Kenya Kwanza government has performed below par on all aspects of that article. We have split this presentation into different fields, and there are 7 of them. The first is on the issue of human rights. And on human rights, we have seen a return of political arrests and intimidation. The surprising thing is that the people doing this are the people who complained in the previous regime that they were being politically intimidated through arrests and charges. They have now brought that themselves, and we have given 2 very egregious examples. First, Baba's security man was arrested and kept incommunicado for 3 days when he could not contact anyone, and when he was kept without food and interrogated, which was a clear attempt at intimidating Baba. We have also given what happened to the blogger, Pauline Njoroge, which we see as an attempt to make sure that they silence any person in the media who would want to tell the story of Azimio. The second part of human rights that we have dealt with is the issue of police brutality. Now, maybe to say first that we have, as an opposition, we've been on the streets from 2013. We have demonstrated, we have met police. This has been the most brutal reaction that we have ever faced. And in the 3 months alone of protests, we lost 70 citizens who were shot point blank by police. That are possibly many more people. Within 3 months than we have ever lost in the last 10 years of demonstration. Surprisingly is that despite that unprecedented levels of brutality, the president and his deputy have lauded the police for doing so and have even said that they are going to protect them should anybody try to make them accountable. The converse of it is that when students and young people in Uasin Gishu said that they were going to demonstrate, unlike the reaction with Azimio, where our call for protest was immediately met with a warning and a cancellation of the demonstration, that did not happen and has not happened when demonstrations are called elsewhere, which makes it very clear that these demonstrations, these actions are aimed at intimidating Azimio. The third issue on human rights is concerning the report that was released the other day by the Independent Medical Legal Unit, in which they have said that in the last 11 months, they have recorded 128 cases of extrajudicial killings, and that they have recorded 482 cases of torture. They say that in those 11 months, the torture cases have doubled. And in a similar time last year, the number of torture cases were 232, which means the Kenya Kwanza regime has possibly now won the highest rate of torture cases that we have seen. Now, in that circumstance, what our prognosis of the future is, I think Kenyans should expect that we are going to face much more brutality. And the reason for that is from the economic picture that we've been given, and what Governor Nderito has told us is that things are going to get worse. But governments that are unable to solve your economic problems, the way they deal with the political consequences of it is to become more brutal. So let us expect that we shall have much more intimidation, there will be much more abuse of rights, there will be increased police brutality, there will be more torture, and invariably many more people will die arising from the failures, economic failures of the Kenya Kwanza government. That is our prognosis on that matter. The second head is on undermining governance. We have seen and we started this regime with a removal of all corruption cases from the people who were close to it. And our submission of it is that there seems to be a very subtle policy of ensuring that the Kenya Kwanza government appoints corrupt individuals in all spheres of government. And if your idea of what you want to do with government is do business, then one of the things you do not want is to have anybody of integrity in a place of responsibility. Which brings us to the second issue, which is the contempt for ethics. And again, Chapter 6 provides for the ethical standards of government. And we have said that the Kenya Kwanza government has no regard to ethics and is totally contemptuous to the issues of public ethics. And we have seen that in the return of the imperial power, or attempt to return the imperial power of the president to pardon people who are convicted of offenses. And we have seen the last pardons that were made were even for people who are known children rapists were given pardon. People who had committed corruption cases were given pardon. And this is one of the things that Azimio will be going to court to challenge for purposes of ensuring that president cannot create impunity by attempting to promise people that the president can forgive you for if you are found guilty of a crime. And we have already seen that being employed where the police are concerned. The third is about the threats to the judiciary. Kenya Kwanza started by appointing the judges who had not been appointed by the previous regime, and also by giving 3 billion shillings to the judiciary as a mark of their commitment to an independent judiciary. Of late, however, we have seen two things. First, the president has openly criticized the judiciary, saying that it is obstructing its development agenda. And the reason for that is that the judiciary has stood against the executive when it has attempted to abuse its powers. And also recently we have seen another attack where the president has said that he's going to take action on corrupt judges. Now, we have a Judicial Service Commission, and it is the Judicial Service Commission that deals with all issues concerning judges. So it is an abuse, a threat to judges and the judiciary for the president to assume the power or try to assume the power to deal with the judiciary. The third limb under interference with the judiciary is subversion of the course of justice. And this has been because it has emanated from the threats to people who had cases of Mumias, who are told that they have to withdraw their cases. That is a denial of access to justice. Access to justice is a constitutional right directly guaranteed by our Constitution 2010. To threaten somebody who has gone before a court of law is to deny them access to justice. To threaten somebody who has filed a case is to deny them access to justice. The fourth limb is undermining the Senate. And on this one, we are talking about the case of the Finance Act 2023. I will not go further into that because Azimio did file its case against the Finance Act, and we were heard earlier this week. A judgment is going to be delivered, I think, on 24th of November. So we will wait to hear what the High Court has to say about that. The other issue is abuse of environmental rights, which PS Saitoti Turome has also talked about, and I am not going to go back to that. And then there is the undermining of multi-party democracy. First, to say that the regime keeps saying that it welcomes opposition, but on the other hand, it is doing everything to ensure that there is no opposition. And it has done that by attacking Jubilee and entering into the affairs of Jubilee. And even while the leadership of Jubilee has been in court, the president has openly recognized a faction of Jubilee as the legitimate function, which is the court that is supposed to pronounce as to who should be in charge. And then we have seen the buying of the members of parliament of ODM party, the issue that ODM has taken action on, and I will leave it at that because I believe that is also in court. The last issue we've dealt on this is inclusivity. We started by being told that the country has shareholders, and we have all been told those who want to buy shares be prepared in 2027. The political stock exchange shall be open again, and make sure you buy your shares. So, and we are saying that policy continues. So largely on legal and constitutional matters, I think the one message we would want to give Kenyans is that Kenyans need to prepare to have courage and vigilance, because we are about to embark on one of the most brutal eras in this country. Thank you.
Now, that sounds like a declaration of war to probably solve things, to probably make issues better, or probably better issues in Kenya, because I can say as a country, tuko shimoni. Now, that was Paul Mwangi talking about, number one, political arrest as well as intimidation. We have seen that happening, and of course that is a question of human rights, kwa sababu tumeona imerudi, and he's given instances of Ruto's bodyguard who was held incommunicado. We also have Pauline, who was silenced because they do not want, apparently, anyone to talk about Azimio, or they don't want any media that wants to talk about Azimio. Paul also, or Mr. Mwangi also touched on police brutality, as I said earlier on. Also citing that there was a reported 128 cases of extrajudicial killings and torture, and amezungumza mambo mengi in terms of governance, about the Kenya Kwanza team undermining governance, and this is by, according to his statement, appointing corrupt officials in government. We also have he's touched on the issue of contempt for ethics in regards to presidential pardons as well, saying that kuna wale wamekaa tu wanasubiria the president, or the president has power to forgive them. Now, Mwangi also has cited some of the powers that the president has, including that of presidential pardons, as well as the president trying to assume powers like threatening the judiciary, or trying to sack some of those in system who are not working, which according to him, it's not his, or he does not have power to do that. As well as what is still in court is the Finance Act of 2023, of which Mwangi has also stated that judgment might be heard on the 24th of November. And we also have the undermining of the multi-party democracy. And clearly, amesema they're trying to say that they want to welcome the opposition, but clearly there is no room for opposition, or they're killing the opposition. So this is where I bring Emmanuel in on some of the points that Mwangi has talked about. And we can start with political arrests and intimidation. Of course, we have seen it come back. And is it something that we can say people are actually being arrested for zile vitu zenye wamefanya, or is it like political?
I thank you for the good question that you're bringing about. I love answering questions using questions. Now, what's going on in the United States of America?
What's going on?
With Donald Trump, the former president.
Oh my God! All I know is that he's being arrested and let go because of very weird and very many charges.
Not only in United States, in developed countries, leaders are arrested.
No.
And when they are arrested, it's not termed to be political. But when you come to a developing country, third world countries, to be specific in Kenya, if today any politician, I tell you, if there's a court ruling or order that he must be arrested, it will be political. It will be political in a case that politics in our country is being used to hide every ill that each individual does. Now, I don't want to believe that every politician is clean. And not every
no politician is clean.
You say?
No politician is clean.
I don't know. You're cleanliness from where you sit. From where I sit is that you might find few politicians who are real leaders. And it's difficult to find a leader in a politician. Now, in our country, we are in a country where the system raises politicians instead of leaders. So the arguments by the lawyer, he's arguing from the school of thought, and of which from the law perspective. Um, and that's the goodness with law is that at times you can use law to make yourself clean. You can term the political abductions. You change them to be political. But I don't disagree with him. We have the procedure. If you have a leader who has been found into any mistake, there's a procedure that's being followed for you to be arrested. Just like any citizen, there's a procedure that should be followed to arrest you and bring you into the point. So what I was trying to say is that when it comes to political leaders' arrest, now the story changes. Explanation are given all over. I'm being humiliated. I'm being abducted for this reason and for this reason. Like the case for Maina Njenga is telling us and telling Kenyans that the reason I'm being abducted is that those abducting me want to know Raila Amolo's plans. Now, if I can ask, who is Maina Njenga to know Raila Amolo's plans? So he wants to associate himself with Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga so as to be made clean. But we know that behind the scenes, what he's doing with Mungiki, and the government is aware. So in a way to bring down Mungiki, you still want to tell us that no, they're not arresting me because I'm running Mungiki. They're arresting me because they want to know Raila Odinga. Which at the end of the day is going to cost our development and even the growth of a country. So the lawyer's school of thought from where he's sitting is in, I can say he's doing his job, he's paid to make those ones giving him cases to be clean. But from what he says, again, we can get some positive points that at times the government can use the government arm. They can use the ESCC, just like what happened to Wangamati Oparanya. They used the ESCC kumshtua asiende kuleta furugu Bungoma. Ilipoisha si koti ilisema arudishiwe vitu za. So we understand this country that the government must use its machinery to bring you down by all means, unless you come and collaborate with them. Yeah.
And he also talked about one thing about the presidential pardons, that is citing it as a contempt of ethics. Now, of course, we know sometimes the president has the power to release certain inmates, probably who have behaved quite well or who have a good record of behavior since their time in. But it seems like a big issue. Is this something that personally I feel like it's something that should be completely done with? Because as we've seen, he's talked about releasing people who are like rapists, releasing murderers, releasing people who've committed crimes. Now you go to prison probably thinking, I'm going to, or there is a pardon for these people. It's like letting the rot back into the society, of which there is a question mark. Then that is also something that they're trying to fight. So for you, is it something that you feel the president should retain the powers to actually give presidential pardons to those prisoners, or is it also something that we should do away with?
Tamara, when you say that you remove the pardoning mercy of the president, it's like again telling us that we remove the president from becoming the chief of the armed forces.
No, but that's different.
No, let me give my explanation.
Okay.
Because one of the reasons that we have prisons, by the way, we have had good people coming out of prison. Nelson Mandela, after being arrested detained for how many years? More than 27.
That's a different story,
comes out to become a president. Now, I'm bringing you to this explanation.
Okay.
That for the president to have that power as a president of mercy for allowing the inmates to be released should continue. How many millions, how many thousands of Kenyans have benefited from it and came out clean citizens who've built our country to the next levels? First, in prison, it's a training center. It's not a place that where you're going to be humiliated, there are people even who don't want to come out of prison.
Yeah, true.
We have some who want to still remain there. Now, the reason is that when the president has that mercy to allow, again, the president does not work in the prison department. What he only comes is to give a statement that today I've just allowed maybe 3,000 to be released. So I don't want to calm down that we should remove it. Actually, it should be in a way that many are being released from that program. One, it will help to reduce the population increase in our prisons day in, day out. Two, it's going to reduce the government costs of running the prison department in our country. And three, it's giving Kenyan another chance to come out and clean again. Yeah. So again, not everyone will use it again as a second chance to make his or her life better.
Most definitely.
Others will be using it now as a advantage. But remember, the government has a machinery. It's able to know that you were in this prison for this and this time. You were released by this pardoning of the mercy of the president. And now again, when you get into the same mistake or more worse, you are not going to benefit with it the next time.
Anyway, I'd like for you, our viewers, to tell us your sentiments on that. Is presidential pardon or presidential mercy something that should continue, or is it something that should be done away with? Is it something that is beneficial? And if so, what are some of the benefits according to you? The comment section is very much open. Feel free to tell us that, and most definitely we are going to come back when we're doing our next segment and tell or sample 1, 2, 3 things that you have said. Now, when we come to matters of undermining multi-party democracy, and of course, the Azimio team or the Azimio representative in this particular session has talked about the government wanting to create a space for wanting to welcome the opposition by creating an office of the opposition, but in real sense, but in real sense, they want to do away with the opposition itself. And of course, right now we know that the opposition majority is That's the opposition is of Azimio, and we've also seen the president try and or one of the agendas that the president is trying to do right now is try and bring the Azimio strongholds into, or probably, to bring them closer to home, that is closer to Kenya Kwanza. Now, do you feel or do you think that the president or the Kenya Kwanza group are actually undermining multi-party democracy in Kenya?
Kenya Kwanza, who undermines multipartism? Who undermines?
Who undermines what?
Multipartism as a country.
Uh-huh.
What the president is trying to do, and I have said it the other time, in as much we have the allowance to explain presence of many political parties in our country. There are political parties which are made for regional parties. The main role of a political party is to unite Kenyans. But you've seen political parties dividing Kenyans. And let me tell you, politics is very divisive. Politics in nature, it is very, very divisive. So when we have Kenyans who are divided to Azimio side and others to Kenya Kwanza side, it's only because of politics. Now, what the president and Kenya Kwanza team or as a party is doing, they're looking for means to unite more Kenyans, to be more strong, so as to be able to counter their opponents, the ODM. No, ODM as a party is the most popular party in Kenya. The party with many registered members, live members, who registered to be live members for ODM. Now, when you have UDA, less than 2 years since it was being created, up to now, we're bringing this great picture that the president wants to improve on the nature of UDA. So this it does, I don't know by fair or unfair means, by buying the small political parties and camping into one political party, which is United Democratic Alliance, which they want to have election in the coming month. Now, the president, using the same strategy, as ODM doing it. How many people are joining ODM?
Actually, people are leaving.
They are leaving ODM.
Yeah.
When they leave, others come.
Oh, definitely, yes.
And you know, why do people leave? You know, political parties again are like business century.
Oh, definitely, yes.
So in business, the strongest survive. So this is, we must agree that things are changing.
No.
The president, you cannot sit as a president and the political party you're ruling is being divided day in, day out.
Sure.
Instead, you want to use the advantage that, number one, you're a president, you have funds, you have mobilization, you are able to strengthen the political party that you're ruling, and it will work for your favor. So to me, it's not breaking and bringing to dictatorship. Remember, the change of a constitution is done through a popular opinion.
Yeah.
Like the one we had in 2017. And actually, if we had that initiative for Punguza Mzigo initiative by Okiya Mtata, you know, that senator brought that initiative. That initiative could have changed our country. But it was brought by a Jubilee. So Jubilee came in and took the Punguza Mzigo initiative and went in to take into BBI. Actually, they changed it from the popular initiative. They brought it to BBI, and of which through the referendum, which we saw other things happening. Now, what I'm saying is that to change a constitution is not 1+1. The sitting president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, with the strongest opposition, were unable to change the constitution. And from all leadership in the world, it is difficult for you to change the constitution when you are seated president. It's very difficult. Ask me why.
Why? Definitely.
It's very difficult for a sitting president to change the constitution. One, you are opposing the constitution that gave you power. So there are articles in that constitution which one will not allow you. And for our case, we have the supremacy of the constitution. The supremacy of the constitution can be changed. One, through popular initiatives. So if a real Kenyan now comes in, not a politician affiliated to any side, a real Kenyan with a great intention to change the constitution today, not change asubuhi na mapema. Mkenya yote amke hivi sema endeleza punguza mzigo initiative. Tumechoka wa Kenya. Sasa what will happen is that other politicians are waiting for this Kenya. Akitokea hivi, anaanza kukaa influence. The opposition will first study waone how will they benefit. The government will sit ione how will it benefit. Ikiona hazita benefit, inapotea. At the cost of local mwananchi, of course. And again, you see Kenyans or people will be thinking that you want to extend power in office. And that one will bring all humanitarian groups, international platforms to look deep with their cameras in everything that you do. So in as much what Mheshimiwa William Ruto is doing is a threat to multipartyism, but again, it's helping us avoid more political divisions. So whereby we are going to have 2 or 3 major political parties in our country. Like in the United States, we have more than 5 political parties. We have the Labour Party, we have the Green Party, we have the Democrat, we have the Republican. But at the end of the day, what Americans and many people of the world know of, it's only 2 political parties. So they know of Republicans, people who are to business side, and it has got the Democrats, people who want to believe in democracy. So like if we want to go into that direction, now let's say that UDA is more like business minded, telling us about shares until 2027. And ODM is more into Democrats. And if we have those main political parties exchanging leaders every now and then we have a good country. We don't, you know how it is costly to start a political party?
Most definitely. It's very expensive.
And how much do you want, time you want to waste? But if you have main political parties in our country, like we used to have KANU and KADU, which were exchanging in our country, they brought us independence. They brought us the first 2 presidents of our country. Even Mwai Kibaki coming up with NAC and others is a way that wanted to continue the KANU. So from where I sit and from where I want to argue this, is that for me, having 2 or 3 major political parties in our country, one will improve our country in terms of political. You know, politics is a science. So instead of going to get someone starting from zero, from scratch, running up in the country, you find I already made a political party. You ask us to join, continue being active, get the leadership and the allowance from that political party, go for a presidential election, win. We want to have where these, like, this time we have one ruling from ODM, the other time we have one coming from UDA. We will have a good country. Yeah, so those ones who are saying that it's a threat to multipartyism, they don't understand what multipartyism is, and they don't understand what the constitution is. Those are people who want to use political parties each and every time as a political tool to get money. The political parties like Wiper. Wiper, those are not serious political parties. They are there always to wait for an election. They threaten that we want to join this side. This side comes with a better bargain. They join this side. They threaten again. This time we want to have this. That's very bad. We want to have 2 or 3 major political parties in our country, which are going to help us run our country. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and as we finalize, we have one Bumula MP, that is Jack Wamboka, who was today or earlier on talking about the hiring as well as the employment process in Kenya. And as per his statement, alisema, if you look at, for example, those who got into the army, majority were Kikuyus and Luos, Kikuyus and Kalenjins. And he was talking about the hiring system in Kenya as well, and how if you want to get opportunities in certain government sports or government fields, you have to belong to a certain tribe in order to get that spot. Because remember, there's a statement where he mentioned that hata rais mwenyewe anajua kazi zikianaunsiwa, for example, anajiekea anataka 2000 slots to get his people there. Now, my question to you, do you feel like in order to get probably a good job, a sustainable job, or to get into the system without bribery per se, you have to be, number one, of course, connections ni muhimu in order for you to get a job, but also number two, you have to belong to, I call them, or we can call them the certain tribes in Kenya, that is either the Kikuyus or the Kalenjins, who are part of what makes the top system. We all know that our president, William Ruto, is of the Kalenjin origin, as well as the DP, that is Rigathi Gachagua, is Kikuyu.
Now I'm getting your point. This is what I've been speaking before. What I've said is that The big problem we are facing as a country is political parties' influence. We wait during the campaigns, we come with political parties. Political parties which are tribal, political parties which are regional. Now, we want to have a political party that is a house for every Kenyan. People from marginalized group are in that political party. People from all parts of the country are in the same house of ODM, let's say, for instance. Now, when you win as an election, you win it as ODM. You don't win an election as people from Mount Kenya.
No.
You don't win election from people from Rift Valley. What Mheshimiwa is saying, in other simpler terms, is that the government of Kenya has been exchanging between the Kikuyus and the Kalenjins. Now, when will you have someone from Lamu becoming a president? When will you have someone from Machakos becoming a president? When will you have someone from Teso, someone from Suba, someone from Kuria becoming a president of a country? It's like an impossibility because you don't have numbers. And in politics, you must have numbers.
Facts.
How do you get numbers? For you to get numbers, you marginalize them to where they come from. Now, the people from Central Kenya and Mount Kenya, you've heard them speak each and every time that we have 9 numbers. 2013, they said we have a tyranny of numbers. That was Mheshimiwa William Ruto telling Raila Odinga and called by that time. Now, what brings these problems is we are becoming more tribal as ever. Now, again, from politics, you must award loyalty.
Facts.
You cannot be from Korea. You are opposing me. I have people supporting you from Central. At the end of the day, we go a war, we fight, we spend resources, we win the government, and then you come and tell me you want equality. Equality cannot be there. What as the government will try to do is to give you equity. Now that equality is not able to be there, they try to balance now. They say they supported us. Let's give them 3 people. This one never supported us. Let's give them 1 person. Not that you never voted for them, but for that national unity. You know, one of the work of the presidency is to unite a country. So as a country, we will be more tribal. If you go to any office and be told, mimi natoka kutoka Kenya. You know, that's a hate speech.
Oh, yes.
We should now come, you know, like when you go to Tanzania, you speak Swahili, unasema mimi ni Mtanzania. Usemi mimi ni Msukuma. Usemi mimi ni unasema mimi ni Mtanzania. Tanzania kuna more than 143 sub-tribes in it. Kenya, we have around 45. But in Kenya, we cannot be united and use Swahili or English. So if I want to know who is Tamara, I will ask, what's her name? My name is Tamara. Tamara who?
Oh, yes. In short, you want me to give you, if it's Tamara Wanjiku or Tamara Otieno,
yes,
or Tamara Chirchir.
So the second name would just tell me where you come from. And I would use it to handle it. So that's what we are facing as a country, and Mheshimiwa is very right on it. But where he gets it wrong from a political perspective, now that he's a politician, he must understand that in politics, you use numbers. If you don't have numbers, you cannot, you know, let's be very honest and very categorical. If we have a president, like the case for Mheshimiwa William Ruto, coming from Rift Valley, majority of those who supported him, and even the government, came from Mount Kenya.
No.
So, Mheshimiwa, how do you keep these people from Mount Kenya to be on your line? Now you want to tell us you are a good president, you go and bring people from Nyanza and give them more works there. That can never be. That's an impossibility.
But if there is a way that it could be equal opportunities to all,
no, what
because
we
you
can
cannot
never
like
be equal.
You cannot recruit like, you know, a whole system of 10,000 people, and 5,000 people are Kikuyus, 3,000 people are Kalenjins.
Now what we get it wrong, Tamara, here is not that they are being employed in numbers because they come from Rift Valley or they come from Mount Kenya. That's where we get it wrong. The reason that they get job employment in many numbers is that they are many. They have a big population. Like when you go to schooling, you find that 90% of those people you want to employ are teachers. And let's take for instance. And you find that there are 2 or 3 groups known in our country taking those courses. So you either get the Kamba people, the Kisis, and the Kalenjins, wao ni walimu. Now when you go to employ them, you find that wengi watatoka wapi? They come from Rift Valley, and few from maybe Kisii and few from Ukambani. So at the end of the day, again as the government, inajaribu juu chini kuhakikisha kwamba it's not tribalistic. There are tuko na platforms, humanitarian groups and everything, tuko na civil works. So when the only thing that is that sasa kuzaliwa Mkalenjin ni vibaya.
Si vibaya.
Ni vibaya kuzaliwa Mkikuyu. It's not very bad. And does it mean
it's not bad? Said it's not very bad.
Is it bad now that the next person kukaa president akikaa Mkalenjin? Itaonekana vibaya?
Obviously itaonekana vibaya.
No.
It is
if
not
someone
bad.
comes,
It is not bad, but itaonekana vibaya.
Let's be people who understand what we want to say. Our system, our constitution allows us to go for an election. And then the winner at the end of the day becomes the president. Now, if we have Mheshimiwa William Ruto, he comes from Kalenjin area. Now, does it mean hatuwezi kuwa na another Kalenjin to replace him?
Of course.
Now, we saw Alfred Keter. Ameanza kuchukua tena ground. What if 2027, Mheshimiwa William Ruto na watu wa mkataa? And they go for Alfred Keter kuwa president of our country. Hiyo itakaa vibaya. Na Keter akichukua mtu from Mount Kenya, na auze sera yake vizuri, at the end of the day washinde elections, hiyo ni vibaya.
No.
It's not very bad.
It is not bad, yes, but let's just go to it. The first president of Kenya was who?
Mheshimiwa Jomo Kenyatta.
Exactly. Tribe?
Coming from Central.
Exactly. The second president of
Daniel
Kenya?
Moi.
From?
Rift Valley.
Third president of Kenya?
Mwai Kibaki.
From?
Central.
Fourth president of Kenya?
Uhuru Kenyatta.
From?
Central.
Fifth president of Kenya?
William Ruto. Rift Valley.
Sixth president
the sixth
of Kenya?
president.
Bado tu ni yeye.
Rift Valley. Atatoka Rift Valley.
You see, why haven't you said coming from a different? Because even Kenyans perceive that the only way we can get
that's
only
probability. That's only playing up probability, and of course, anybody can become a president. We have people who can make presidents. Alfred Mutua is a good person, can make a good president. We have Simbarati.
Okay, yes.
We have leaders we've seen and identified who can make good leaders. Now the thing is now the numbers will cost them. And when you don't have numbers, you are unable, not even numbers, even resources. For you to have resources to mobilize the entire country, for people to support you, you must attend funerals, you must attend rallies, you must attend church services, you must brand a party, you must everything. So you must have a lot of resources. And then, so the probability now lies between the two groups, between the Gikuyus and the Kalenjins. Just because, one, they have numbers. There are many. Ni wengi sana. Na wanapokuwa wengi sana, lazima watadictate uongozi utaenda wapi. So unless we change our procedure kama yetu wa Kenya, if now we understand and say, we want to vote for an individual. We don't want to vote for mtu wetu. We want to support other people. Hatutaki kusupport mtu wetu. But
that's close to impossible.
But very impossible.
Yeah.
It's very impossible.
Yeah.
As a human nation.
Anyway, we're looking forward to seeing labda the next president will come from Kisii, as you said. We might see Simba Arati taking lead and changing the narrative that majority of the people out here have, that only Kenya can only be led by two tribes, that is either people from the Rift region or people from the central region. Now, of course, we are coming to the end of our discussion, but remember, I asked you a couple of questions that you can feel free to tell us on the comment section below. And number one is in regards to the presidential pardon. Is it something that you subscribe to, something that you would want to stay there, probably because you're benefited, or it has more benefits or many benefits? Or is it something that should be done away with. And also, once again, right now, I want to pose a different question to you. Now, okay, before that, the second question was, do you feel like the current government is undermining the multi-party democracy system in Kenya? Feel free to also tell us your comments on the comment section below. And my final question to you, our dear viewers, is, have you ever experienced not getting employment, or actually getting employment or securing employment because of your second name or your third name? And I mean Wanjiru, or do I have a traditional name, or Mugaka, or Wamboi, or Kasioka, or which other name is coming to mind? Kipchumba. Yes, wherever your second name is. Or Wayuma. Yeah, Have you ever experienced that?
Chacha.
Chacha. I'm trying to be as inclusive as possible, Yes, or Hassan, all the way. Have you ever experienced either?
Lekakei.
Huh?
Lekakenyi.
Lekakenyi. That is from which region?
Masai.
Masai, yes. Lekakenyi. Have you ever experienced either getting a job or not getting a job because of your second name? And what was the experience? Please feel free to tell us on the comment section below. And of course, when we come back for our next session, we are going to read your comments. We're going to sample some of your comments. You're going to tell some of your stories, most definitely. Now, thank you so much for keeping us company and also allowing us to keep you company, together with Emmanuel Bosire right here. And of course, we are welcoming you both physically and virtually to join our conversations, to join our discussions. Let's make Kenya a better place, Africa a better continent, and the world a better place and a safe space as well. So from the KNA family, peace, love, and unity to you. Have a fantastic morning, afternoon, as well as evening, depending on whatever time it is in your continent, in your area code, in your zone, yani kila mahali. Amani iwe nanyi nyote. Goodbye.